So it's a bit of a mixed picture here of what is going on. To discuss this, Head of Immigration and Asylum Law at Leigh Solicitors, Jacqueline McKenzie is with us. How are you doing, Jacqueline?
Fine, thank you.
Nice to have you with us. Listen, I'm reading this story about what is happening with Ireland. I'm confused, and I'm a genius. So if I'm confused, Lord knows what anybody else is thinking. What's going on here? What are the central problems, and who's at fault?
Well, we don't fully know what's going on because it is really early days. But since around February 2022, Ireland has had an uptake or an increase in the number of people claiming asylum there.
Yeah.
It's not quite clear what's caused that, whether it's because the people claiming have family members there or have come across community organizations, centers of influences, etc. We don't know that, and we can't make a correlation between that and Rwanda because that preceded Rwanda. Rwanda was first mentioned in April 2022, so that's the first thing we know. But very recently, the numbers have gone up even further. And you'll be aware that there's been, concern in Ireland about the number of people, members of the public have been protesting and so on. And our government has said, well, this is because, the Rwanda scheme is in effect a deterrent. But we can't actually make that correlation because it's too soon. We don't know who the people are or why they're going. Now, Ireland is saying that we're going to return people crossing from Northern Ireland. So AIR is saying people crossing from Northern Ireland will be returned back to the UK. The UK is saying they're not going to have them. The UK can say that because we're no longer in the Dublin Agreement. However, Ireland is. So Ireland can remove people. It can remove them back to France and to other countries in the EU. So it's all really complex. So one of the interesting things, and I suppose in one sense, because we're outside of Dublin, we can actually say, well, we're not going to take anybody back. But Britain is saying we want a whole EU agreement, but it's not part of the EU because of Brexit. But that's what it wants before it will decide whether it will take anybody back. And finally, on that, Ireland has said, well, we're not sure that we really want to remove people back to the UK because we don't deem the UK to be a safe third country because people are at risk of Rwanda. So it's very confused.
Wow, it is confused. What I was trying to work out, Jacqueline, more than anything, is how the people at the centre of this, the migrants themselves, how they got to Northern Ireland. Now, I know how you physically get to Northern Ireland. You either fly there or you go by boat. But if the suggestion is that some of the people that are ending up in Ireland, as distinct from Northern Ireland, are the same people that are entering the UK at Dover, so what some people call, rightly or wrongly, illegal immigration, if it is that same group, how are they're then travelling, presumably to Liverpool or somewhere off the coast of Wales, to then go to Northern Ireland to then get into Ireland? Because they're certainly not coming across from Calais in a boat direct to Ireland.
Yes, I mean, that's one of the issues. And that's why I say it's too soon because we don't really know much about the characteristics of the individuals. So there will be people who have left perhaps England, Wales, Scotland, and moved to Northern Ireland because they have family members there or there are organisations there that are hosting them or making them feel welcome. So that's one of the things that would be happening. People aren't just appearing in Northern Ireland direct from Calais. I suspect they're moving across the kingdom. However, the more interesting question is how are people then moving on to Southern Ireland? And that we've not quite understood yet.
And the Irish, I mean, I don't know whether this is politically handy for the British government or the Irish government, because so the Irish government, it's almost as if the same script is being played out, Jacqueline, right? It does feel a little bit like that. So the Irish government clearly know there is big concerns about what is going on with immigration in their country. They're sort of saying, well, it's nothing to do with us, Gov. This is this is London, this is Downing Street's their fault that this is happening. And of course, in the same way that Downing Street might go, well, we're doing all we can, it's the French, etc. And everybody wants to send somebody back to somewhere, it seems. They're not quite sure whether they can or whether they can't or who the people even are. I mean, that's where we're at in this.
I mean, that's where we're at this. And I totally think that we just really need a grown-up conversation globally, really, because, you know, I think I've said before, there are 120 million people displaced across the world. Some countries are really struggling disproportionately with the numbers that they're taking in. I mean, Poland took in 2 million people from Ukraine. Very tiny countries and very poor countries are really having the brunt of this. Colombia's got 3 million Venezuelans. So Britain has to do its part. You know, it had 30,000, or so far 30,000 people have crossed the channel this year. Last year it was just over 40,000. These are really small numbers in terms of the global context, even though the optics don't play out well. And we know that there are real pressures on communities for various reasons, not necessarily because of asylum seekers or refugees. So really there does need to be a solution. And of course, it's always played out that there should be more safe routes. I mean, we know, for instance, 25% of people who crossed the channel last year came from Afghanistan, and there is a safe route for Afghanistanis, or for Afghans, sorry, i.e. the Afghan Citizens Resettlement Scheme, and it's not working. Why is that failing?
Yeah. It's a good point, and one to continue pondering on. Jacqueline, great to speak again. Thank you for being on with us. Jacqueline McKenzie from Leigh Solicitors on what is clearly a confusing picture